10x your service design offering with Smaply. Take 20% off any order with This Is HCD 20 off. Let's superpower you and your design team's potential. Sign up at smaply.app. Enjoy the episode from your friends at Smaply, helping support This Is HCD podcast.
Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of This Is HCD. My name is Gerry Scullion and today I'm going to be your host, and I'm thrilled to be joined by Sidney, a talented service designer and design strategist, to delve into the fascinating intersection of design and sustainability. Now, in our conversation, Sidney shares his inspiring journey into using design for good, and we tackle the complex balance between pursuing meaningful work and making a living, especially in the freelance world, which is where Sidney is currently working in. Now, we'll explore the challenges of weaving sustainability into the design process and the decision-making landscape within organisations. Sidney offers insightful strategies in using design principles and rethinking business models to foster more sustainable outcomes, and will discuss the critical role of leadership in driving change and the necessity of combining both bottom-up and top-down approaches. So our discussion highlights the importance of empowering users and shifting business models to uncover new opportunities. We'll emphasise transparency in the design process, the potential of localism, and the designer's unique role in problem solving. Sidney also shares his exciting plans to launch a consultancy focused on reducing impact and promoting sustainable behaviours. So sit back and get ready for an enlightening conversation packed with valuable insights on how designers can use their skills to create positive change, something we are all passionate about here on the Human Centred Design Network. And please don't forget to subscribe to This Is HCD wherever you're listening to this podcast to stay updated with our latest episodes. Let's jump straight in. Well, Sidney, delighted to have you on the podcast.
Thanks for having me.
We've been messaging back and forth for, I think you said it was a month, but I think it's probably, I'm looking here at my notes here, and I think it was April, so 2 months ago.
Yeah, time flies.
Time flies when you're not having fun. Sidney Debaque. Is that right? Debaque?
Yeah.
Am I saying the name right? You certainly perfectly. How would you describe what you do, and maybe tell us a little bit about where you're from as well?
Obviously, I'm French. I grew up in Brittany, which is the closest you could get to England in ways of living, mostly because of the weather. But then I quickly moved to Paris when I turned 18 because I wanted to work in strategy and so I mostly started to work in CX strategy, CRM strategy, and through a friend, I started to discover service design, which quickly aligned with what I wanted to do. So very, very quickly picked up my interests. So in 2018, I joined Hyper Island in Manchester, just, trying to look at the best weather every time. This is how I guide my destinations.
You're not following the best football team,
It is. And so I started to learn about service design thinking, things like that, at Hyper Island. And since then, I've been working across London, Berlin, for scale-ups to corporates, around, municipal projects.
Oh, very good. Very good. Now, when we connected, there was a strong focus, and someone had mentioned your name to me before, because I'm really eager to discuss more around the craft of design and how we can be a little bit more conscious around what we design. Not a little bit more conscious, fully conscious of what we design as regards the planetary effect. I mean, how did you get into this? Because if you look at your LinkedIn profile and you see what you're talking about, there's definitely, you've been on this kind of road for a while. How did it all start about for you?
I think a long time ago, and I think I didn't land it where I wanted to be, mostly because of naiveness. Naiveness? Yeah, I think so. Maybe trying to translate from French. So one of the things that basically I wanted to do is I always thought that, brands have so much power that they should use it for good. What good is, it was up for me to define over the years.
Yeah.
And so over time, I started to, what I was saying is working in customer experience strategy. And I just realized that, first of all, we don't really much have the depth in terms of trying to nudge, because we only work at the brand level and not so much at the company level. And so I thought, it's interesting, but it's not quite there yet. Hence me starting to look into service design, because I don't know if you've seen the full stack service design by Sarah Drummond, which I think it's like a very, very good example of showing the different layers that make up a company and a service, from front end, back end, up down to like the company culture. And I think this is where I like to work the most. And so I just started to build up interest through different research projects. My master thesis at Hyperion was around autonomous vehicles. And the whole question was, what's in it for customers and the users in the end? Because at the time it was 2018. So it was, the hot topic of the year, which was trying to understand, since autonomous vehicles are going to revolutionize everything from the way people live to city landscape to the way we go on holidays and everything like that, what's in it for the people who actually use it? And I looked at research, and at the time it was very much things like they're going to watch TV, watch Netflix, sleep, and work. I was like, great. Two of them are just more around like consumption and production. And, you can rest and sleep, whatever you're not doing either or. And it started a little bit. So I grew up with my mom, and as I said, like Brittany is the countryside. And so whenever you have to go somewhere, you need to drive. And I remember that my mom was always saying like she likes to drive because it's a moment for her to stop and reflect. And whenever she has issues and things, because it's a low cognitive activity, she can think about things. It's like a good time to pause. So I started to think around, if we start to compress time for people to consume more or produce more, when do people have time for themselves? So basically this is like those kind of topics that where I think it really started to kick in and to look at the impact of the things we design on people, and by the way of that, on the planet, society, and things like that. And then I just continued through, work, research projects, and things like that.
How do you frame what you do when because you're freelance, you work freelance as a service designer. There's obviously but there's most likely a tension there of trying to pick up work that pays the bills. And then there's obviously this other side where we all need to be more aware of the work that we're doing, what we're producing, and saying no to the work that doesn't align to our values.
Yeah.
Not everyone can do that. So talk to me around that tension and how you rationalize it.
It's a very, very good point. I think rationalizing it's not that easy. And just on an ongoing basis and a daily basis, there's hardline. And I think, basically where I'm just saying, no, I'm not going to work for you. And that can be all of the BP and oil and gas and things like that. And it's mostly coming from a rational, even though it's for their sustainable teams and things like that. When I look at the investments they've done over the last year and the way they cut their investment on sustainability, I don't think me working on a project is very much what they want to do. They don't want to launch something which is actually going to be looking at, how can we improve the way people live and reduce our impact on the planet? It's very much more, we have some sort of, money left. We have to do it. So I don't feel like I'm going to work with them. This is one of the first things I use to rationalize. The second thing, it depends, I think, on the moment. At the moment, I think the freelance market is slightly complicated. We can see and just like the general tech market, there are a lot of people being laid off. So I'm not sure there's that big of freedom sometimes to choose every project that we can. That being said, it doesn't mean that through the project we're working on, we can bring more of a sustainability lens. One of the big things which I'm thinking of is systems change, and changing system, has to start somewhere. And so there is multiple things. There is one thing which is just about voting as an individual, where you can start to, change political system. And by the way of that, the way, regulations, things like that. But we can see, for instance, using the example of ULEZ in the UK, changing only through laws doesn't really help. It creates a lot of friction, it creates social tension, and in the end, we end up with, just talking about French election at the moment, far right in power for most of the countries in Europe. I think, sorry?
I was going to say, when the far right not even the far right, but just centre right starts to take more of a kind of a stronghold on the decision-making process, you can already see, I don't know if you follow Australian politics, but Peter Dutton down in Australia, he's on the right, like he's not even centre right. He's like, hey, we're going to pull out of, we're going to reduce our commitments to climate. So it's a worry for everybody when you see leaders taking a stronghold in these kind of decisions and undoing a lot of the work that we've as a collective have been trying to push, and undervalues and devalues all the work that we're trying to hopefully achieve as a global economy. As regards design though, Sidney, where do you think the tension lies within service design in particular? Because you say you're a service designer and design strategist. Is it in the lack of knowledge of the decision makers within organizations, or is it just something that's fundamentally wrapped up in the methodologies, do you think?
I think first of all, we need to, I try to make a difference between the design practice and the design industry. The design industry, companies, the way they build, are business-centered. And because we are business-centered, as an industry, we frame the practice around businesses as well. And that's something that I try to work with the clients I'm working with. It's something that, when I write articles, this is what I try to come across, is there are different ways to do things right now, because the way of business has set up and the way the system and the economic system we work in, everything is built around optimization and optimization of gain and money gain.
And growth.
Exactly. And so I think there are many things that we can do first at our own scale, which is around how can we try to change the rationales that we use to inform decisions during the design process. And there are things like, just starting to use the business model as an enabler rather than something that you have to design for. Something that I've been using, working on every time on different projects. I try to be a bit more agnostic of the business model and show that we can hit better outcomes if we don't start with the business model as a requirement, but at the end of it, and we just say, right, this is what we want to design. Can we change the business model based on what we just want to enable at scale? So I think, a little bit of A and B. I think there is a bit of the practice as well, which is very much, we work with the people that we see every day. And so we work for companies, but we also have the responsibility, because we have the luck of being so close to that, to try to move a bit of needle in the other direction.
Yeah, that's a good point. I mean, if you look at the corporate strategy for some of the organizations that hire service designers, they will include things in there about, like, we care about the sustainability of our planet. I'm sorry, I'm really cynical. I shouldn't do the voice. When it trickles down into the organization, they're still really just doing the same stuff. And it seems like the decision-making processes are just broken. So the values aren't trickling down into the doing. What advice do you have for teams of service designers? Like, we can talk about it and say we need to do better, and then all of a sudden they're going to go, hey, we're launching a new phone, or we're launching all that, and we're like, okay, it's just more of the same, and we're going to build a service around this new service plan of phones and all this stuff. And then we're caught in the weeds again. Like, really, do we have any power to shift this? Like, well, where is the best use of our energy as a collective from the design community to try and tackle these problems?
Short answer, I don't know for sure. What I think, though,
I want you to give me the answer. I want to know what we need to do, Sydney. In 50 words or less.
No, yeah, most of it are mostly intrusions. Whenever we can, and it comes back to the possibility of refusing work, and that also depends on our own financial stability and as a freelancer, as a company, so on and so forth. Let's just do it. If it's possible, let's put a hard line and say, I'm not going to work with you because of this, but that requires some sort of stability on your own. The second thing, and one of the, if you can't do that, one of the things that I started to work, to use during the process and with the different clients I'm working on is design principles. I think right now the way, we design things and just the way we think about the world, we use a lot of shortcuts. Like the car is freedom. Are we going to use workshops because it's design thinking? Are we going to use stand-ups because it's agile? But there is a whole set of layer which is about the way we're going to approach things. And I think this is more on the culture of the company, of the team, and of the project. And I think just like the idea of a siloed company delivers a siloed service, the way we approach design, the way we approach decision making influence the outcome that we, generate. And so I think design principles are quite useful because they're not there. I mean, they're not yet a solution. They're more way that we agree upon to approach problem solving. And so it comes back to what is the mindset that we are using, and it changes the way we frame problems, the way we frame solutions. And because it's, again, not yet a solution, people are more keen to, get on board with it. Rather than me saying, hey, you're going to lose money for the next 10 months because of this solution. It's more, let's try to achieve that outcome, and then we're going to work in that direction. So I think it's a nice way to try to nudge and facilitate different type of outcomes and the conversation on a daily basis with the people you're working.
Yeah. One of the things that I've tried to weave into my projects that I'm working on as a consultant is this decision-making matrix where you have your values trickle down into the actual items that need to be weighted. So how important is it to have sustainability as part of our project in every project? What does that look like for this project? Is it weighted against speed? Which one is more important? And we speak about this in the design community on Circle within thisishcd.com with the community. Decision-making pieces, it seems to be whenever Agile gets hold of the projects, it's speed and speed to market and break it and we'll fix it in the next iteration. Kind of that mindset doesn't really work when we're trying to have reflective practices in our craft. And a lot of the executives that I've spoken to about this, they kind of look at me as if I'm like, well, slow equals increased cost. Why would we do that? It's that tension of we need to make money. We need to provide that we're actually, we're doing the right thing for the business.
Yeah.
So it's the business and the planet then, and that's the disconnect. And most people say, well, that's the government's responsibility to regulate the organizations and the businesses to make sure that they've got a responsibility. And I argue that it's not the government's responsibility. Like they cannot be everywhere at once.
Especially then when we blame them.
Yeah, absolutely. It's very easy to blame the governments. Oh, yeah, like point the finger at the governments. Oh, the politicians are at fault for absolutely everything. There's litter on the road outside my house. Government's fault. It's not. We all have a responsibility at a citizen level. But I guess it's top down and it's bottom up is what I'm hearing from what you're talking about there. Like we can work bottom up, but from the top down, have you had any interactions or any advice for people listening to try and encourage the leadership to come on board and provide them with the right questions and to ask of their own kind of mission of what's my responsibility in leading this organization into the next millennia.
I think it's more, unfortunately, a bit of a long game with them. Again, there is a very like entrenched way of thinking towards business, and one of the things that the example you were talking about, I think it's quite interesting towards cost, because you're not suggesting for them to have like a unviable business. You're just suggesting for them to have a less viable business or a less profitable business. And I think every time we're talking about the short term, when, for instance, I come back to the research project I've done around autonomous vehicles, and I started to look at different ways we could do onboard experience for users, there were like multiple things. When I did the testing with users, most of them would pick up something which was around working because it's tangible, because all of the things and all the markers, they just, if I can leave work more early, then I'll just do it. Then if you look at the reality, when, we introduced laptops, when we introduced more remote working or the beginning of COVID, people starting to work more because they could, and so they feel they should. And so with the other prototypes that I've built, which was more around how do we empower users as way to, use the commute or the way they would use autonomous vehicles for them to learn different things. And that could be just, I think in 2018, one of the big trends around people were just like, going back to school, trying to learn cooking class and getting, other type of lessons. It's like, cool, but if we use that 40 minutes commute time as a way for people to learn new things, it didn't really score well with users, but what I did though on the other side is testing the different types of prototypes with more like a business lens. And so every time we're like, based on this prototype, what do you think are the behaviors that could emerge from it? And what do you think are the future business opportunities that could emerge from it? When it was a prototype around working, it was like very much converging. So, after one or two iterations, like basically we could sell Prozac directly in the car. Sweet. But when we look at, if we look at empowering users, we had like a diverging type of business model. And so what is a new behavior could create a new business opportunity and so on and so forth. And I think I don't remember exactly what was the ratio, but it was, 1 to 5 more business opportunities when it was around empowering users. And so I think it's that very much like the short-term mindset, which is quite entrenched in our society at the moment, which is quite complicated to fight. But it's, I think, quite of the key root of we try to do business in a way that we're going to bring value, almost yesterday. It's not possible. And by doing that, we're offsetting the cost on so many other people, so many other things. And I think it's trying to bring back this perspective and showing that by doing the right things, you're gaining more popularity around a different audience. You producing more outcomes that actually, whenever there's, governmental regulations, you don't have to adapt because you're already setting the standard. And so all of these things are, I think, more helpful, and you can show also that by doing the right things, you're producing more business opportunities in the future rather than constraining yourself into and ended up back to the wall. But it's a long game. It's part of the consulting aspect of service design. It takes time. It takes the right stakeholders
absolutely
to work with. So yeah,
I love that. Like it's really at the individual level. So what I'm hearing there is like you've kind of championed this and you've decided to incorporate it into your experiments, and you're bringing back the voice of the customer. I hate that phrase, the voice of the customer. But anyway, you know what I'm talking about, the voice of the customer. But we're bringing it back and showing that there's growth opportunities. So you're kind of, killing two birds with one stone, really, and showing that there is potential there to still hit those kind of goals from the executive level. They still have to be, achieve these milestones to show that they're doing a good job. one of the pieces that I really, you kind of alluded to it there a little bit, is around the transparency of the process, and showing the level of detail that teams can go to, and they're thinking about these things, and the consumer doesn't always get to see that thinking. So I remember when I was in Toronto for the Service Design Global Conference in 2019.
Mm-hmm.
Cannot remember the name of the speaker. So if they happen to, if anyone listening knows who I'm about to speak about, they had a hotel in Newfoundland, and it was on an island, and basically all of the products on that island were designed with sustainability in mind. So when you went and you bought a towel, like a towel that you use in the shower, it showed that the cost of making the towel was this, the profit was this, the materials were sourced from here, this level of transparency, and it showed like, well, actually, you know what, they're making 15% on this, and that's fine. Profit is fine, like, you know, but what are they doing with the rest of it, and where does it go? So Sutsu, who I kind of partner with for the upcoming range of clothes for this podcast, they're made on demand, so we don't carry stock. If someone wants to create it from scratch, but we're hyper transparent about this minimal amount of profit in it, and the cotton is sourced, and you're really careful about transparency. Most organizations don't do that. They kind of hide behind the kind of the production line, so to speak. So what are your thoughts on is that the right kind of approach of being able to share this level of detail to the people who are interested?
I don't know about that specific example generally.
Is it a cop out, maybe? Is it a cop out? Is it another way of just saying, we're still going to be doing all this stuff and we're just showing it to you? You know,
I think it depends very much where we starting. One of the things that recently I've been thinking a lot is very much around the scale of design, and, you know, who, for instance, I want to work with. I want to work with big companies, or do I want to work with smaller companies? And it's the same around working with communities. I think right now we worked on, you know, the world and the way it is has been built towards scale, and how can we scale things? How can we scale profit? How can we scale everything? I'm not sure that this is something that we should, you know, design for and we should aim for. And I think ultimately we should bring back some sort of more human scale perspective into things. And so one of the key ideas around that would be like around localism, and definitely being transparent about it. It's just great, but also making sure that just like in design and the process of design, we're supposed to work with people. You know, I think designers are just facilitators of something, but basically we're helping people to bring an outcome, or we're helping them to do something. And again, as you said, I'm not around business. I'm not around, you know, things in general, but it's around how do we do business. And this is where I have more issues and trying to ultimately a business, a company is just a tool to get something done. The way we're going to use it, the way it's going to change things. So transparency, I think in the current system is the first step, because of the scale of things. We need to be transparent so people know where it's coming from. I'm not sure it's the destination, if that makes sense. I think bringing things a bit closer so people, you know about it, and we don't need to advertise about localism would be great.
I know, absolutely. I mean, it opens up cans of worms, because say if you've got a big, you know, shopping kind of grocery store chain, and they're like, yeah, we're able to do this. We're able to do it for our pasta. We're able to show where our pasta is from, but we can't do it for the tomatoes, because that's definitely, you know, the garlic. We're definitely not doing it for the garlic, because that's coming from China. Okay, so you start having all of these kind of different questions around certain pieces of the business, and that's fine. I mean, sometimes you need to take the first step, the first leap, and it is a really nice approach to try and weave into the conversations. Can we really share this information? If not, why not? And what can we do to fix those problems? I think that's a decent first step. And it's worth pointing out, like, this is everybody's responsibility, not just design's responsibility. Like, we do a lot of talking, especially in this podcast, around this topic. And, I wish other industries were as focused on this stuff. I'm not pointing fingers at anyone else, but it seems to be that doing the right thing tends to fall within the design world. We're the ones who are kind of putting the flag up, I believe, anyway. But that might be a bit of a Stockholm syndrome kind of perspective on things. But, is that a fair statement? You think, like, other industries, like, do we see marketing and all of these other parts of the businesses, like, do sales really kind of step up and say, you know what, I'm not going to sell this because it's not. Do I do the finance department?
I mean, I know that from friends who work in different fields, from fashion to a bit more of like software development and things, they are definitely something, that just hit home and they're looking at.
Yeah.
Maybe it's me and my own Stockholm syndrome is basically everything is design. The way we build clothes, design system, design educational system, everything is, when we build a new software, it's designed. The way it's being coded is designed. So that approach of design and thinking about what are we going to put inside, what are the requirements, what are the impacts, is something, as designers, it's literally just our core practice and all we know and what we're also very good at. And that's where I think it comes from, what I was saying around facilitation, because our real value is helping people to inform and to make decisions throughout the design process, whether we design, policies, services, products, interactions, anything. It's just a process in itself. So I think it falls under multiple industries, multiple practice. I wouldn't say we have the monopoly of it. But I see what you mean. And I think it comes back from more the idea that we are cross industries. And so that's something that, we can see. We work with multiple teams. Sorry?
We need to get better at. We need to get better at that.
And I think we're working with, multiple teams. Whenever I was working for a retail, grocery retailer, and, I'm not just working with the customer experience team. I'm not just working with their UX or tech team. I'm not just working with, customer support team. I'm working with all of them. And so obviously we can see multiple aspects of the business and we can bring different sensibilities to multiple aspects of the business. And I think this is where we're good at, and showing that by using different rationals, different, mindset, we can influence better outcomes for each part of this business, which sometimes are quite, I always forget, but like T-shape versus Y-shape, can't remember exactly. But sometimes I think, again, designers are very good at facilitating, but people have the knowledge of their own industry, of their own role. And this is sometimes also one of the issues, just put some sort of blinkers on it.
Yeah, absolutely. With that, putting the blinkers on it, I like to put scrutiny on design processes and really think of them less as lateral kind of processes, like a conveyor belt. Let's start your research. Let's start prototyping. Let's start generating ideas or whatever. Think of it more as a cycle and an iterative piece. Where do you find the most value as an independent service designer when you're working with clients that you can open their eyes up to that eureka moment? If you were consulting on a full end-to-end design project, where's the bits, and they were kind of relatively new to design, where do you think there's a biggest opportunity for us to really rethink how we actually work?
The very, very beginning. I think the framing is super important. And I'm not sure that this is something that we often work on or that much. As a freelancer, it happens to me that I work on projects that have already been scoped.
It's inherited. Yeah, you've
Yeah,
taken
exactly.
it. Yeah.
And I think, part of that scope, can't remember earlier you were talking about something, and we do the work with end users are trying to look at their own system. We're trying to look beyond the interaction line, beyond the way they're going to use a service, all of that, and we try to, get a bit deeper. We don't really do that with the companies we work for. We get some sort of an understanding, but we almost take this as a requirement. So whenever they come to us, I want this, they already sort of framed a solution. None of them really come to us with, hey, I have this problem, help me. And it happens. I think it happens at different levels, but ultimately, and this is what I mean by the design industry is business centered, we became more of solution delivery rather than problem solving. And I think, if we will work more on the framing and the scoping, what are we trying to achieve in the first place? I think this is where it's a bit like that butterfly effect, right? Because we can change the frame. We can change pretty much everything of the outcome. And I think, I'm very interested in the mindsets we use. At some point I nerded around language. I found this really cool. Can't remember the name. That's what I mean. I'm bad with names, of the speaker, but he was around all the different languages that we speak shape the way we see the world. And so, just the fact that we have north, south, east, west, or up, down, or the fact that in French, and I think in English as well, the way we construct the sentences, we see the future in front of us, the past in the back, but I think it's in Japan, the past is in front of us because you can see it. And so the future is in your back. And so, you can change just because of the different words that you use, because of the different mindset that you use. It changed the whole shape of the way you approach a problem, the way you approach solutions. And I think this is where we have the most value to bring. And so, rather than being, again, business centered, can we bring different mindset to the table when we frame a problem?
Really nice, really nice. Sidney, we're coming towards the end of the episode. Is there anything particular you want to give a shout out to? Anything you're working on? Anything you're hoping to achieve? I cannot believe we're in the middle of the year. We're coming towards the longest day of the year here in Ireland. What are the things that you're hoping for to achieve at a personal level and a professional level in the next 6 months?
Definitely going on holidays. I need a little bit of a break. But more on the professional level, I'm just back from France. Although I think the 21st of June is the best day to go in France. It's the music fest, and it's, I think, one of the first time and the only time in France where everyone is in the street and actually having fun. So good day to go in France.
People are in good mood.
Yeah.
Everyone's not grumpy in Paris.
No, they put street music and things like that, and it's great. I think it's one of the things I miss the most in France. But no, otherwise, I think more on the professional aspect of things. I'm starting to really launch more of my consultancy. Right now I've been working as a freelancer, taking projects as they come. But more and more, I avoided, I think, starting my own company because both of my parents starting their own with their own issues. My dad worked so much. My mom ended up ill and couldn't keep her company. And it just, so I was like, no, I just want to have a secure job. And I never want to have the responsibility of owning a company. And I think as I grew up, it's more of the thing that I just want to do. And, all of this, the rest is non-important. And so I'm starting to
see this big smile. I wish more people would do it.
In France. This is why I moved. So starting to launch it, and so trying to find a bit more clients working with, so helping them to either reduce their own impact through their organization and the services they build, or to actually foster different behaviors and things like that, which are more aligned with planetary boundaries. So yeah, if you hear me and you want to chat, you can find me anywhere.
Absolutely. Well, we're going to put a link to your LinkedIn anyway.
Thanks.
Probably the best way to connect and message
Definitely,
people.
yeah.
So put a link in there to that, Sidney. And if you're watching this on YouTube, be sure to subscribe. If you're listening to it on Spotify, hit follow. Did you know, like, I think there's only something like 5% of the followers of this podcast actually subscribe and follow. The rest of it is all down to the algorithms. And screw those algorithms. I want you to take control of your own destiny of listening to this podcast by subscribing and following, but also clicking on Sidney, connecting with Sidney. This is really important work that Sidney's doing and hoping to do more of. So if you are an organization out there at the moment and you're looking to bring somebody into your organization who can really help lighten the conversations to people and really inform a better way of working, check out Sidney's work. You can do an awful lot worse than just even following him on LinkedIn, because I'm learning as I'm going along from Sidney myself. Sidney, thank you for giving me your time today. It's Friday morning. I'm sure you've got a host of other things you could be doing with your day, but I really, really appreciated you giving me your time and energy this morning. It was really great speaking with you. So I'm looking forward to chatting to you again soon.
It's really great to be on the same podcast as so many important people that I've been listening to the podcast for months. It's great. Thanks, Gerry.
That's great. Thanks so much, Sidney. Thank you.
Have a good Friday.